Gotta open the meeting first, yep.
All right, folks, this is the Board of Public Works meeting, Tuesday, October 10th, 2023. The time is
About 6:15.
6:15. It's at the DPW Conference Room, 965 Plain Street. The appointments at 6:15 is Mr. Frederick W. Russell, interview for DPW Superintendent position. 7 p.m., Sean T. Patterson, interview for DPW Superintendent position. Action items, discussion and vote on DPW Superintendent position. Next meeting, October 16th, town meeting. That might change. That might change because the selectmen are voting tonight on changing the special town meeting time. So it might not be October 16th. I don't think it will be October 16th.
You mean they're gonna change maybe the date?
Yeah,
Yeah, they gotta change the date.
we gotta change the date
Really?
for some reason,
Okay.
so. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
3-0, Tom.
Thank you.
Okay, now, it's nice to meet you,
Nice to meet you
Mr.
too.
Russell. Format, I believe, I can be corrected if I'm wrong. We'll give you some time to introduce yourself to the board, Ms. Jordan, Mr. Shaughnessy, and myself, John Cusick.
Well, good evening. My name is Fred Russell. I'm currently Facilities Director of the town of Marshfield. I've been a homeowner in Marshfield for 32 years. I raised 4 sons in Marshfield, all went through the Marshfield school systems, all currently in law enforcement. I went to Mass Maritime Academy, graduated in '87. Prior to that, I went to, grew up in Dorchester and went to St. Gregory's in BCI. My first job was with the Electric Boat Division of General Dynamics. I was in their career development program. It's spelled out in my resume pretty much. But so I've been, you know, my career basically went from constructing nuclear submarines for 2 years to wanting to get back to home. So I basically went to work for Massport. I was the environmental field technician for 4 years. And that was a new role for Massport, so I had the opportunity to kind of customize where it went. So anything they threw at me, I took it on, and hoping that, you know, I'd be rewarded for that someday. And 4 years later, I was rewarded that with being made the manager of mechanical HVAC. A year later, they gave me the water and sewer department. And for the next 20 years, basically, I ran the water and sewer department, the snow melting operation, snow removal on the ramp. I was the chief operator of the wastewater treatment chief operator of the wastewater treatment plant for the fire training facility. Then I worked there until 2012 when Plymouth Nuclear Power Plant got their 20-year license extension. I went to work for Entergy Corporation as a senior nuclear engineer. With that, I was in charge of the HVAC. And again, I was taking on anything they wanted. They wanted me to become a preventive maintenance engineer, the program manager engineer. So I was a program owner of the PM program. Basically, any critical PMs went through me. Any changes went through me. If we changed the frequency or the scope of work, and basically, I would have to review it and work with the subject matter experts and present it to the preventive maintenance oversight board for their approval to change. So basically, it's and then after, you know, they were gonna close, my options were basically, they had a job down in Louisiana. I asked my wife, I said, hey, do you wanna go to Louisiana? She said, no way. So I thought, I applied for this particular job I have now. I've been doing that for the last 5.5 years. And it's been a good experience for me because my timing was very good, because when I came in, shortly thereafter I came in, the money was appropriated to do the 3 big projects. So we did the COA. I was heavily involved with this, in addition to the COA, the police station, and of course the DPW. It also gave me an opportunity to build relationships with Carol Hamilton and all her staff down there at the senior center. Chief Tavares and all his command staff at the police station, and in between with all the fire details and so forth, with the fire Chief Simpson, Hawking before him, and their command staff. And of course, working with Tom, the TPW, and his leadership staff. So I've had a good opportunity to meet a lot of different people. I think if you, I think if you find someone out there that you trust and you know that, I work on cooperation, I cooperate, and I think cooperation actually leads to relationships. So I have good relationships with every leader in town, basically, from the fire chief, police chief, superintendent of schools, Granatino. He's actually my boss. I report to Michael and Superintendent Granatino. But I think you'd be hard pressed to find anybody who hasn't had a good experience working with me. And I work hard for that reputation. So now I'm here before you because I think it's an opportunity. I think all my package now this will be like a capstone of my career to become the superintendent of DPW. I think I have a lot to offer, and I look forward to talking more. If you have any questions and so forth. But I wanted to just take an opportunity to thank Tom for his numerous years of service to the town, public works, and I appreciate all your efforts. It's actually proof in the pudding. When you look back 32 years, I've been a homeowner in Marshfield, and you, I actually did the math, it's 1,664 weeks. And out of 1,664 weeks, I actually had two, because it's been 2 weeks, so 66. There's only been 1 week that I've been inconvenienced by the DPW, and that was the August 2019 sewer water break where there was cross-contamination. We had a boil water order. That's an excellent track record. That's a testament to Tom's good stewardship, the commission's involvement, and also your predecessor, Dave Carey, and goes back to the beginning of time. So I appreciate everything that you do, and it's a testament to the systems are in good order. And I just think there's a couple of things that we can implement that'll make a big difference. I think it's customer service initiatives type of things. When you talk about, I have a draft action plan of what I plan to do within the first 30 days, 90 days, 1 year. A lot of them is, I'll hand them out later, or I can hand them out now, but I have an action plan and some attachments I'd like to go over.
But didn't you email that to all of us already?
I did.
Okay. We already have it.
You have it? Okay. Well, I think if you go to I think part of the customer service gap is that when there's an issue with DPW, the residents don't know where to turn to. They don't know how to communicate that request. I think it's a challenge. I actually have 5 siblings in town and 20 nieces and nephews in town. And, they call me, since I come to the job, they think I have an in with the DPW, which I do. And they call me with services. Who do we call? Do we call Tom Reynolds? They see a name on the thing, or they email Rod Peccacino, or whatever the case may be. But what I have to do here is this is going to be, I think this is a really good program that's going to help communicate issues. It's going to document when someone goes in. If someone Googles Marshfield DPW, the first couple pages shows up. It's going to be the Marshfield. Any of the Marshfield pages for Marshfield DPW, this will come up. We'll say request service. So you press that, brings you into an action thing. We put your name, your email, and then you upload photos. Once they press submit, we get an automated response from the program saying, hey, thanks for your thing. It's item number 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever the case may be. And then basically what I would do is every day I would go over that list and actually assign it to a department, bin it. I'm sure there's going to be some vague requests. There's going to be duplicate requests. But you bin them, you prioritize them, and then you bundle them together and you send them out. You push them down to the deputy superintendent, down to the area supervisor. They'll go out and validate this, that the work needs to get done, to validate the priority that we assigned it, and we'll schedule it. And then when it's done, it gets done. It comes back up to the superintendent's office, and an email sent out to that person saying, hey, item 1, 2, 3, 4, the pothole, the small pothole next to that catch basin has been sealed. So it kind of closes that gap.
I'll take a copy of that.
You take a copy?
Thank you.
Anybody else save copy?
I got the electronic.
Save copy, Tom, I can get out the other meeting.
I have
So that's one of the things that, you know, there's three things I'd like to do initially, the three things. They're all customer service, public relations type of things, but I think they'll go a long way. One is to do that online thing. The other thing is to the street sweeper. You know, I became aware recently when we were doing the pre-K up at 255, we wanted to get the parking lot pruned for a seal coating. So we called for a sweeper, and sweeper said, we'll be there at 1 o'clock, whatever it was, he came early, whatever, and a lot of contractors there, as you could see, was we sprinting through the finish line. So I said, I asked Tony, my assistant, I said, Tony, can you call and see if they can come before, all the contractors show up at 7, leave at 4. They come before, have them see if they can swing by the parking lot before 7, and take care of it. And I found out then they work 7 to 3. I said, that's one thing I want to do is extend that hours of operation, you know, have it go at least 2 shifts, let it be repaired during the day shift for the mechanics, and send it out there and get the street sweeping going, you know. It's pretty self-explanatory. I mean, I go over every guideline if you want, but.
I think they've got questions that they've all written, so.
Okay, we can jump right into that.
Okay, are we all set with the questions? I'll ask the first question. Bob's the vice chair, he'll ask the next question, then you'll answer your
James
question.
Johnson, okay.
Are you guys all right with that?
Yeah, John, fire away.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Mr. Russell, for that presentation. My question is, and I'll read the whole thing, it's more than,
Okay.
but what is your experience with enterprise and indirect funds? And what are your thoughts regarding indirect policies? And Marshfield's indirect policy is very complex. It's probably more like 40 pages. Most communities assign a simple percentage for the indirect charges. So what are your thoughts on the enterprise?
Well, my initial response is I like simple. I like being simple. I think a flat percentage makes more sense. I can imagine being a fin direction. We talk like a snowstorm where you know the water department, the wastewater group, you know, splits off and they start rolling into the highway group and starts working on snow removal. That must be an administrative nightmare to do the payroll for that. I can imagine that the hours associated with that and trying to coordinate and validate to the town that, hey, we spent X amount of $1,000 on snow. I think it's much simpler if you went to a straight percentage, in my opinion. That's you know, again, that represents fairness to all parties involved. You know, that's basically.
A percentage of what?
Percentage, like you said, it could go a flat percentage of what the payroll is in a particular department.
Okay.
You know?
All right, that's your answer, okay.
Yep.
Mr. Shaughnessy, you're next on the.
No, you can go all three, or we're just gonna go one, one,
I'm gonna
one?
go one across.
Oh, okay, fine. Good. So I changed my question a little bit from the number one. But the superintendent is responsible for all the infrastructure other than facilities in Marshfield. So this is a planning and management type of question. What is your vision as in the superintendent's role in planning, implementing, and management? And can you provide what you would do in the various divisions to formalize a plan and planning process that could be accountable and enumerate successes and failures?
Well, I think every good organization learns from its failures, celebrates its successes, I'll tell you that. I would have to review the master plan. Hopefully there's master plans for all the major systems, the water, sewer, storm systems, the bridges, roads, sidewalks, and pavement, seawalls. I've reviewed those plans with the department head. evaluate where we are, where we need to go, how we're gonna get from A to B. And it's always a money question, it's always trying to get to the, you know, what's the 5-year outlook, what's the immediate need, and prioritize your work, you know, and work out, hopefully there's plans, I'm expecting there are plans, and then reviewing them with the department heads and seeing where we are, you know. I've done that many times with facility buildings, you know, we had that Durham Whittier facility evaluation done a few years ago, back in 2015, before my time, but we look at that, I work with the head custodians for the schools, I'm saying this, what works here, this is kind of, some of the recommendations they made were kind of silly, like, for example, they had in the Hill Station, they wanted to put an elevator in so the firemen can get from the apparatus floor to the bunk room, you know, and Mike Resco's like, I'll close the station down if we gotta do that. But that's the type of stuff, so you gotta weed through, put some logic to it, put some pragmatic thought to it, so that you have a good plan that's actually, you know, plans are just that, they're just a roadmap that, you know, as things change, you get a bad storm, and your seawall plan goes out the window, you know, or you can get an action from DEP on wastewater discharge that you're gonna react to, that changes your whole plan. So you have to have a good plan, a logical plan, pragmatic plan, but be realistic that, hey, things could change. Things can change overnight, so. You gotta build flexibility, and you gotta build resiliency in the plan.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, you covered a little bit of this in your presentation. So at various times, Marshfield residents have had issues with flooding, snow, ice, worksite complications, road hazards, and other impediments which affected safety, access, and damage to their property during off-work hours. I think that's the part wasn't covered that I'm concerned with. Along with a lack of effective and helpful channel of communication in these emergency situations. While you obviously can't not be instantly available 24 hours a day, what's your plan to ensure that Marshfield residents will always be able to easily and quickly reach and receive help from the DPW when they need it?
I think it's a valid question. It might already be in play, but, I mean, we have, there'd be a rotating schedule for the department supervisors. I would have this 6 supervisors, so we'd rotate every weekend, that night, weekend, you go on duty. We did it on the plant. I was on call every so often, you go on Thursday night, and you go until that following Friday morning, when you're off. You know, that type of thing. So I would have a rotating schedule. I'd always be on call, but I'm not available 24/7, 365. A lot of times I am. You can tell from storm events that, any storm events, you know, I'd be obviously wrapped into that tight, but, but I mean, it's those knockoff ones that we have a water break in the middle of the night, where there's no, you know, it's calm, cool, no rain, no weather. Those are the ones that become tricky, and those are the ones where you need someone to back up me. And the deputy, you've got a deputy as well too, so, that'd be some type of, everyone's gonna put an oar in the water type of thing, you know, as far as management goes, to some extent, you know. That's how I would handle that.
I think my question's more about how people would actually be able to reach someone.
They'd have to call, they'd have to call the 911. If it's an emergency, you call 911. That service request thing that I'm talking about wouldn't be one of those 24-hour accessible type of things. That's kind of like an administrative, non-emergency type of, you know, like a sign base that's broken, or like the stop signs getting obscured.
Right, yeah, I
that
got
type of
that.
stuff. You know?
Yeah.
So you'd call the police station, and then we'd have the dispatch would have who's ever on call at a particular time, call me and that person, the two of us, and we react to that. Am I answering your question? Not really.
That's kind of the system that's in place right now that hasn't always worked well, but that you didn't answer my question. So-
Well, I mean, if someone doesn't answer the call, then how does it feel? What's the failure mode? That's how you have to look at that. If something's not working, and you got to adapt and adjust. You know, if I put something in place and it doesn't work, I'm gonna adjust it till it does work. That's how you have to be. I mean, that's how you always have to be. The only reason I wouldn't work, if I'm not available and the person who's on call is not available, that's a quagmire, right? That's a fault, why is that person not available? Maybe we'll put a third guy in the mix, you know, if that's how it's gonna be, but, it's not gonna be, you know, I mean, that could happen, and if that's, I don't know what the failure modes are, but if that's what's happening, you add people onto the alcohol list. And you deal with it, you know, you don't want people, some could happen, medical could happen, some could happen emergency, someone's, you know, the event that things on the line, but I've had pretty good success with being, you know, rotating weekly coverage, starting on Thursdays, you know, starting on Thursday night, so someone doesn't, you know, that weekend guys, he's off Thursday night, he knows he's off for the weekend, he's off till another 6 weeks or something, you know.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, thank you. Here's my second question. Can you please provide us with an interpretation of the DPW director's duties as they relate to a snow event? Specifically, what is your thought process before, during, and after a storm?
Well, I think the busiest time in a snowstorm, my experience, is in between storms. A lot of times, most of your work is done repairing equipment, getting equipment ready for the next storm, so I wanna make sure that there's enough people focused on that time frame between the end of the last storm and the start of the new. Sometimes it could be 2 days, and sometimes it could be, you know, 2 weeks, but depending on how the weather forecast looks, you gotta make sure you're planning for the end of the storm too, because when you start a storm, you don't wanna start in the hole with equipment being offline. So that's number one. I'm not sure, that's one of the first things I want to do too, is review the snow and ice plan, snow removal and ice plan. I mean, I imagine you would start, you know, you must have a group calling, we used to have group call-ins, you have, you know, group 1 call-in, you have group 2 call-in, then you got an all-call, let's go, you know. But I mean, you want to stage it so that you have coverage on those type of things. And I was thinking, the street sweeper, the afternoon overnight street sweeper, he's gonna be the first one in the sander, you know what I mean? So that type of thing, he'll be here, you get off the sander, get off the sweeper, get in the sander type of thing. So I'd have to see what works, what the plan looks like, what's worked, and talk to the Jimmy Jacksons and say, Jimmy, what works for you, what causes you to you know, agina type of thing, and get some feedback from the other, you know, the other stakeholders in town, the police, the fire, the town, what causes you angst, what is your problem when you start up? Well, you know, I have heard where the police will call for sand and like where, like everywhere, you know, we need it everywhere, but you guys must have your priority spots. If not, you're gonna have, I'll create those priority spots where you've got roads that deep inclines into major roads, they gotta be priorities. But I imagine that's all in play, but if not, it's gonna be in play. But after I review it, you know, to make sure that, you know, when we start rolling in people, there's a clear definition, delineation of where they're going. We have priority, you must have priorities areas, I'm assuming you do, but I would definitely do that,
Okay,
yeah.
thank you. Excuse me, I'm gonna turn the heat down a little bit.
Sure.
The air conditioner, you mean?
No, the heat's on.
Oh, he's on.
That's
It was cold.
heat?
It was 60 degrees in here. When we got in here.
I'm freezing.
It's hot.
You're cold?
Yeah.
Good.
No, do what you wanna do, I have a
No,
coat.
I'm
Put my
sorry.
coat on.
No, all right.
No, during
We
time.
can leave it the way it is.
I thought you were gonna do it because Fred's here. Hey, Fred, you're the facilities guy, come over and change the,
I know. I was like, what are you guys doing? Can we want to have a short meeting? Let's get doing a short meeting. When you want to have a short meeting, you might put the.
Let's see how good you are. You're a facilities guy, so you fix the heat.
Those are same, I'm all set.
It's right up your alley.
It is, I can do it, ding, ding, ding.
I spent 35 years eating.
I'm just
It
used to
is, yeah,
freezing
I know,
in
plumber,
meetings, I
right?
guess. I'm used to freezing in meetings, I guess.
Oh, yeah,
It's always
it's a-
cold in the
that's fine.
library.
Diane's actually comfortable.
It's a great trade for kids to be in.
We just there for you, Diane.
Unbelievable.
That's
Yeah,
so
it's a
nice
good-
of you.
Thank
It's a
you.
good trade.
Yeah.
That's the kind of guy I am, a nice
All
guy.
trades are good. That's a good one.
I mentor some of them, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, awesome.
Okay, so
All right. You're up.
Bobby, you're up for question 2.
All right, number 2. To change it a little bit, I wanted to explore external resources. There's a ton of external resources,
Yeah.
federal, state, grants, loans, all that stuff. So my question is gonna be geared towards that, all right? As superintendent, how do you see your role of seeking external resources to help improve the Marshfield infrastructure? Give me an example of a program, or programs, projects that you were directly involved with to achieve an external support, extra resources to achieve a program projects, and describe what kind of details went into going into acquiring the external resources and what kind of dollars were achieved. Also, can you describe which projects or programs were successful and which ones were failed? You know, we always learn from our failures, so the next time around we could be success. So I want to kind of explore that whole process.
Yeah, that's an excellent question. I think grants are a great way to do some improvements, and I've taken big advantage of that in the last 5 years. I've been involved with over $1.5 million in grants, from Green Community grants, Mass Save grants, Mass DOT aeronautical grants, CPC grants, Stanton Foundation, the Dog Park grants. You know, and I actually took a class from MMA just last week on grants, and basically it was kind of like an overall view. And basically what I got out of it is, you know, don't have a shotgun approach to grants. Don't, you know, look at the ones that you make sure you apply. Make sure you do a good review of your grants. Which ones, don't waste your time on grants you're not going to get. You don't have a chance to get. You're better off picking 2 or 3 good ones and going after them and doing a good submittal, good application, so that when the time comes, you've crossed all the T's and dotted all the I's. And the worst thing you can do is just say, I want this one, that one, that one. So I want to focus. I'll focus on those ones that make sense to the town. I mean, there's one out now for workplace safety, and it's like $25,000, and I think that'd be a good little jump start. I know Department of Labor stands, this is one of my actions too. I know a year ago, municipalities, Massport, we weren't subject to OSHA regulations. And it was kind of awkward because when I was doing environmental field technician, I took on the safety role of the whole Port Authority. So I'd be doing safety meetings, and they would say, you know, well, OSHA makes you do that. And then I'd be like, I go to the powers that be, and well, we work to OSHA standards, but we're not subject to OSHA. So I'd always be saying that. But now that's changed. Department of Labor standards actually has the enforcement action of OSHA. So you have to comply or you get fined. I realized I went to a safety, they have a quarterly safety, our insurance company, MIAA. They have a quarterly safety meeting that I went to, and I met for the first time Jay Parker on the wastewater probably 2 weeks ago. And he's kind of like becoming the safety guru for wastewater for Clint. And I said, you know, you could tell he was very sincere. He wants to do a good job, and that's awesome. If you have guys like that who really want to step up and do what needs to be taken care of. That's also another thing in my action thing, is to have a safety officer for for heavy equipment operators, you know. That any safety, any equipment that comes into the DPW, this person is the point of contact. As far as even speccing out the equipment, you want this one operator who's actually the lead operator, the top operator, and he would actually do the specifications, do any site visits to the manufacturer, make sure it's being operated as it should. And when the vendor delivers it, even if you buy the same street sweeper, it's a little different. It shows a little difference from year to year. This person would get the vendor training, and be trained the trainer. This person would train the staff on the actual equipment they'll be operating. I think that's so key. And I think Jay Parker, he seems very sincere, and I think that's a great avenue to do. It was successful at Massport. We had a safety officer. He was like the lead senior equipment operator, and he was the go-to guy. And that's a good way to go. But that's probably the first one I would try to apply. I think it expires the end of this month. But it's $25,000, and it's Department of Labor standards that it's in the package. They emails you. It's like, and they're after. They actually call out. I'll say they're after, but they actually call out DPW. And so I think they've already been to the landfill. They've already done a landfill, and what's going to happen is if somebody gets hurt, they're gonna come out, and it's gonna be a different ballgame. When you do training, what I've learned over the years, if you don't document it, you might as well not even do it. Because if you don't have documentation that this person had trained, you can say, you can be the best trained person in the world, but if you don't have documentation to support that, then you might as well not even do it. That's been my experience.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Sorry, let me get back to my questions.
It's my turn.
So Diane's next.
I'm sorry, Diane.
Okay. Okay, so describe the relevant chain of command and approval procedures for all work done by the DPW and how you would navigate a scenario wherein any Marshfield official or department makes a request through you for the DPW to perform work, alter an existing project, or provide any DPW services which have not been vetted and approved via an affirmative vote by the Board of Public Works. So it's a two-part question.
What's the first one? How they gonna?
I'll repeat it, yep.
Yep.
Just describe the relevant chain of command and approval procedures for all work done by the DPW is the first part of that question.
How I answer that, I'm definitely a chain of command person, up and down the chain of command. But I also think this would take care of that. I mean, I would want the request, I want someone to go submit a service request online that I would look at the next business day and bin it and prioritize it and shoot it down either to a deputy or have someone go validate the request or get back to the person who made the request to clarify it. But if you force people to use this is gonna be good because you can sort it into Excel or something. The beauty of this thing that I'm looking at, it's free. It doesn't cost anything. So you can implement it right away. I've worked with Detective Goodwin, the new IT director, and Jay McGillis, excellent. They've helped me, they actually helped me do this. It's actually gonna be one of it's called SpiceWorks. And it actually can customize the information that comes on it. You can sort it, you can sort it by type. You know, people have to put it, we'll have some fields they can check, pavement, tree, whatever, pothole, sidewalk. So I would request people to use, not force anybody, but I would request people to use this new feature. And I would tailor that to that. Even when you get calls, even if you guys get called from your neighbors or something like that, and say, hey, put in a service request, if you just Google Marshfield DPW, one of the first two pages, the first one, I just did it today, first one's Marshfield DPW, and every single web page, the cover of every page, will have a service request button. You press that, it's gonna prompt you, it's gonna document it. I'll have my eyeballs on next business day, but I'm gonna look at this. The only way it's gonna succeed is if I'm gonna be looking at these things every single day. And it might be like service request whack-a-mole at the beginning, where you get so many service requests coming in, but if someone has to do it, and I imagine it's gonna be like this at the beginning, and then it's gonna taper off. But it's gonna pay off dividends, because people are gonna get feedback right away. Hey, I received your request, it's pressed 1, 2, 3, 4, it's been assigned a priority of 2, One's gonna be the same day. We'll work all that stuff out in the future, but that's basically how I would do it, And if one of you contacted me, hey, Fred, there's a pothole over here, I'll put the service request in, I have no problem doing that too, But I mean, we should condition people to say, hey, you get a request, whether you're the select board chairman or a homeowner or a clerk working 7-Eleven, and you put the request in. We're gonna treat them all the same.
Okay, so so that's more focused on resident requests for as an example, pothole
Yep.
issues. This question is more focused on projects. So, but that's fine, I understand your answer. So the second part of the question is, how would you navigate a scenario where in any Marshfield official or department makes a request through you for the DPW to perform work, alter an existing project, or provide any DPW services which have not been vetted and approved via an affirmative vote by the Board of Public Works? So this is more about
Is there a value?
projects and you know, not maintenance type
Yep, I mean,
issues.
I'm not sure, it'd be up to the Board of Public Works. I mean, is there a value or a level of effort that you want to get involved? Is there a certain dollar amount? Or is it everything? Or is it like, you know, $5,000 of commitment? Or is it, you know, is it the level of effort? Or is it just subjective or objective? I mean, that's what I'd follow the direction of the board, honestly. If you guys said to me, hey, we wanna know if you think it's gonna take a lot of work, of course, I would check with this director supervisor, like Jimmy Jackson. What's the level of effort here? Well, it's gonna be a crew of guys Saturday for 8 hours. That's a good commitment. I think that's a good, on overtime, you know? I mean, that's something that I would have to bubble up, I think, run it by you, and then see if that's how you wanna handle it, or, I don't know, I'd have to feel my way through that, to be honest with you, as time goes on, and get a feel for what level of involvement you guys want. So I don't know if you wanna be down here or up here, but whatever level of involvement you want to be, I'd entertain that, you know. Phone calls, I can call you too, you know.
Okay.
Communication is the key to everything, I think. If people communicate, if I'm unsure, that to me, it's a level of effort, you're like, oh, it's nothing, it's a nothing burger, Fred. Okay, cool, it's a nothing burger, I'll move on. But if you guys said to me, I may think something's a nothing burger, and it may be something important to you, then you just gotta tell me that, and then we'll work through that, you know? We'll work through that as adults, you know what I'm saying? You stepped over the line, and that one, Fred, why? Tell me why. And then I'll learn from that, and we'll discuss that, and we'll move on, you know?
Okay.
Okay.
All right, thank you. My third question is rather simple. What type of work order system do you currently use?
We did have School Dude. We fired them though because it was like $20,000. It went up to 20. They got sold. This company called Bright, they sold them. And they had some crazy thing where they said we owed them $20,000 because we didn't tell them we didn't want them, and they auto-renewed it. And I sent one email, and I copied it Bob Galvin, and I said, there's no contracts that will ever execute that auto-renew. And they said, yeah, you had to send an email by a certain date. I said, we didn't pay you. We didn't pay you last year either, you know. We're not paying you $20,000. And so we got rid of Brightly/School Dude. And we're gonna go with this, they're gonna use something like this. We're gonna use this as our work order system.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
Yep.
All right, so is that the end of our questions? or-
No.
Oh, Bobby,
We got
and then
two
you.
more.
I'm sorry.
It's
It's
okay.
okay. This question relates to personnel and unions. Superintendent of Public Works wears many hats. As the Chief Operation Officer, describe your labor relations experience. Also, describe your past experience in management of personnel and union affairs.
Okay.
Also, describe a situation where you can define success and a situation where you can define a failure. Because we always have successes and failures. In each, what do you believe it would be the lessons learned and how did it change you as a manager? So just describe your management style and how you progressed over the years dealing with management, and things change all the time.
Right. Well, I supervised, directly supervised. I was the manager. I had a supervisor, non-union. And then we had local 25 Teamsters and local 537 pipe fitters and local 103 electricians. So I'm familiar working in that environment. It is difficult to work in that environment sometimes because you may have someone who goes the extra mile all the time, and other guys skating along, and it's frustrating to me that I get treated both the same way. But that's how it is. That's how the unions are organized that way. So my manager style is, again, communication, setting clear expectations of performance, try to correct those guys who were tailing off. We had a big push where we started a new time management system at the airport, and for some reason, if they punched it, the day crew started at 7, and I had a foreman who came in from New Hampshire who'd like to come in early, he'd come in at 5:30 to beat the traffic, he'd have a cup of coffee, he'd be talking to the night guys, he was a plumber, talking to the night guys what happened, what's going on, and he'd forget to punch in. And I'm like, you cannot forget to punch in, and it became he got in a real big spotlight, and I'm like, Dennis, I said, you're gonna end up getting yourself suspended. Now, here's a written warning, you gotta follow the progressive discipline stuff. Sure enough, he ended up getting suspended, and then finally, he realized, it was kind of illogical the way it worked. He says, I'm getting in early, yet I'm getting suspended. I said, well, the software doesn't recognize, they're giving him an hour overtime, we weren't approving it though. You'd have to go into the software to approve that overtime. So, he didn't, I don't know if he didn't think it was serious or, but I always try to make sure and say, listen, I said, this is where you're heading, this is, so communication is key. And if you're bringing other people, some of the people, like his shop steward came in with him too. He actually was a shop steward, but I had to bring the assistant shop steward in and say, hey, it's an issue that he has to address. He's a leader in the department. If I let him get away with it, everyone else is gonna start doing it. So this was coming down from it's like the Board of Public Works telling me, hey, people are gonna punch in no earlier than 15 minutes before the start of the shift. Bing, done. That's the edict that came down. That's what he was in there early having a cup of coffee. He'd be talking to the night guys, and he'd lose track of time. All of a sudden, he's punching them late, 7:07, and he's getting, so it's a quagmire. But he ended up, fortunately, after he got suspended for 2 days, initially it was a week, then we negotiated down 2 days, he became compliant. He was not happy initially, but then he understood where I was coming from, that type of thing. So that was a success. If you want to call it a success, I don't like to suspend people for anything. I'd rather have them come into alignment before that happens, But, eventually, he came into being. And I had one situation where I really liked this kid. He actually started the same day with me at Massport back in February 6th of '89. He onboarded with me, went through the orientation. He was a mail clerk, happy-go-lucky, very, very genuine guy, very, very honest, very good communicator. And he became I had a filter mechanic position open, and I encouraged him to do it, and he did it. And then we worked with him through the union, got him through the apprentice program, became a licensed mechanic. And then his attendance became an issue. He just at the beginning of a shift, the day before a weekend or a day before, a day after, he'd be banging and sick. And then sometimes he wouldn't be banging 2 or 3 days in a row. I'm like, well, it ended up being, although I got through EAP, it was a drug and alcohol issue with him. We had random drug testing, never popped positive, but you could tell he had been out the night before drinking. You could see that look on him. And eventually, I worked with the EAP with him directly because I liked him so much, and even the EAP person said, he's not showing up, don't even give him a shot. So he came in to work and he extended his hand to me. Everyone thought he was gonna come in. He came in and closed the door, so everyone in the shop got a little nervous, like, he's a big guy, what's he doing? And he came and shook my hand, and he was wasted, and gave me his badge, and he says, you're gonna find me here, because he thanked me for trying to help him. And then he said, you're probably gonna hear about me being, found in the gutter. He was just wrapped in too tight. That's my failure.
That's a tough one.
Bad. Okay, I think you're up.
Okay. It's my understanding through board discussion and talks with the current superintendent that the DPW is underfunded, understaffed, lacking in Class A CDL licensed drivers and other positions within the department. What is your opinion of the current state of the DPW funding and teams, and what are your plans, if any, to increase DPW funding, attract and retain new team members, and how will you achieve those goals?
That's a good question. When I heard, I don't think many people in town know this, residents know this, but it's disheartening for me to hear that we have employees in the DPW that qualify for Mass Health. To me, people need to hear that story. And that's a town meeting type of thing where you have to get support from the select board and the town administrator, but to me, that's unacceptable that we have people, our benefits, I pay $1,300 a month for my family plan with dental. That's a lot of money. That's out of net, and I make a pretty good salary. So it's like, you got the guys who are starting out with the family, they're struggling, and they're on Mass Health. I think that alone is a shocker, and people need to hear that. But I mean, when you think about, that's one of my actions too, is working with the department, is to figure out, I know, when if you're not paying correctly, I guess when you get a CDL, I'm hearing that Eversource is doing a behind-the-scenes blast, mail blast, to these CDL lists from the state, and they're offering them jobs with a lot more money, better benefits. You're fighting uphill with that, so somehow you have to put a hook. There has to be some type of hook. If you're gonna train these guys for free, then they're gonna give you back some time to do it. But pay has to come up, and I'd have to strategize that with the board and the select board and the town administrator to say, listen, we're losing people left and right here. Let's communicate, this is an issue. Let's get people together from both DPW and the select board and talk, and sit down and talk and work this out. Let's cooperate, let's talk about it, and let's move forward, you know. And I bet you there's not one person, not one select board person that would say it's good to have, you know, that we have employees at DPW that qualify for Mass Health. That's almost like, that should not happen. That's like,
Okay.
That ends the questioning.
Yeah,
And John, so if you want to give Fred an opportunity to make a closing
I
statement.
do. Fred, would you like to make a closing statement to the commissioners?
I would. Thank you for your time, appreciate it. I've been researching the DPW a lot in the last couple of weeks as time goes on, and researching all of you, looking at your backgrounds as well. And I know, Jim McCusick, I know you're an advocate for the ratepayer, and I appreciate that. Thank you for your service. I know you guys are volunteers, and you put forth, you know, you don't get paid for this. There's a reason why you do that. So I appreciate all, I think you're keyed in on the ratepayers and making sure things are fair and just. I know, Mr. Shaughnessy, that you're about water resource authority, protecting the water resources. I think that's an admirable thing. We're very fortunate to have you in that position for so long. You guys have been here so long.
They're feeling new, 2002.
No, we appreciate, you know, your efforts are really, I mean, we did the 255 Furnace Brook. It's in a water resource protection area.
Yeah.
I don't know what you call it, I think that's what it's called, but we weren't planning on replacing that septic tank because it was approved. It had Title V, and it wasn't change of use, but it was missed by the Board of Health. So we weren't gonna fight that. I don't think it was worth the fight. I think Mike Moresco and Superintendent Grantino were like, you know, we have the money, the infrastructure, we use that money to put a new de-nitrification system in. It's the right thing to do. So that's what we did, but it was a significant amount of money. It was a good investment that we did, but that's from your hard work, creating zones of water resource protection areas so we don't take the nitrogen loading off these areas. And Dan, I think your charge is like customer service and communication and transparency and trying to get back, you know, and I think that service request thing, I'm looking at it as a resident, you know, so I'm like, how would if I didn't work in town, I call Tom and he answers every time, and Tom called me and he answers every time, Jimmy Kent, Jimmy Jackson, been great. But I have that luxury, you know, a lot of people don't have that luxury. So how do we do that? I think the service request systems program is gonna make a big difference in a short period of time. And it's gonna be busy, I'll be busy going through that, but you know, so I just wanted to say thank you to all of you for all you guys are basically volunteers.
Right.
And I appreciate that, you know, I think you guys have been doing it for a long time, so,
Well, thank you for coming,
yeah.
and I noticed on the resume, you're a Mass Maritime guy.
Yep, Mass Ryan.
Yeah. My two sons went to Mass
I
Maritime.
had a son, my oldest son went there too.
Yeah, one's a chief engineer.
Oh, there you go,
Yeah.
that's
So,
great. You know, I know it's between me and Sean, and I know Sean, and I like Sean, I have a good relationship with Sean, and, but I think I have a lot more to offer to the DPW than Sean does, and that's basically, but I like Sean, he's a good guy, you know, he's a good man. I think I'm ready to implement these actions, and if you take the opportunity to read them, I hope you did, you'll understand where I'm coming from, and I think you'll appreciate. If you look at my background, all my experiences come together this is like to be a capstone on my career, so I do appreciate your time.
Well, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks very much.
Well, thank you for applying
Yep.
and taking the time and effort. And no matter which way it goes, Marshall's glad to have you as a facilities director.
Thank you, appreciate it.
It's just 7 o'clock, so.
It is the vote.
Good work.
We got a
Good
couple
time.
minutes.
Perfect.
Yeah, what is-
So you can save your battery now.
Give you an opportunity to make a closing statement, and if you have any questions for us.
Could I do the opening statement and closing statement together along with a brief overview of what I know about the department?
Sure. I would leave that up to the chair.
I was going to ask.
I'm
What was-
sorry, I was looking for something.
Thank you.
Tom has mentioned that I could do an opening statement and then a closing statement. Could I put it together and do a brief overview of the department and what I know about it?
So you want to just go through the questions and you want to do the opening?
That's fine.
I don't have a
Whichever
problem.
way you want to do
No,
it.
I'm fine.
I'd like,
Huh?
Chairman, I'd like to hear his
Yeah.
presentation before.
Yeah, do
questions,
it,
if
okay.
that's okay.
I have a handout I can give each board member if you like,
Yeah, sure, fine.
if you don't mind. No, I'm not going to
I'd
read it.
like
Just
to
gonna-
hear what he has to say.
Did you email it to us?
No, I did not.
Okay.
The
I don't-
opening
Tom,
I
you
would like
want-
the opening
No,
statement.
I'm good.
yeah.
Okay.
I don't know, I didn't present
Okay,
it
great.
however he wants to present it, but.
No, I think it's,
So you want to do the opening statement? Is that
Sure.
all right? That's,
If you don't mind, I'll do that right now.
okay, go right ahead, Sean.
Yeah, that's good.
All right. Well, first of all, my name is Sean Patterson. I'm a candidate for the superintendent of the Department of Public Works for town of Marshfield. And it's an honor and privilege to be here, and thanks for having me. I want to let you know that I've had over 20 years' experience as a leadership role in the public works field. I've been doing it a long time. 8 years I spent here in Marshfield as the deputy superintendent for 7, and I was the interim superintendent for a year. I have a pretty good idea of what goes on in Marshfield. I've seen the best and the worst thrown at you, especially with storms. It's like 2 different planets. You get on Brent Rock, you get flooding. You go up north, you get about a foot of snow. You have to combine your operation into 2 phases and work the storm as it comes in. So I have a pretty good idea of how that works. If I was lucky enough to be the selection for the position, the first 30 to 60 days, I'd like to come back in and reacquaint myself with the staff. I know most of them already. Reacquaint myself back into the role of being the leader of the department moving into the future. One of the first things I need to do is sit down and work on the FY25 budget. Get that ready for town meeting this spring. So that will be one thing I'll be doing, sitting down with staff, the manager staff, to put the budget together. I'm sure you've already started that. It's just me picking up and putting it together and presenting it for the fall, spring, I'm sorry. And then figure out what various projects we're gonna have going on in the spring. But me coming in October, November timeframe, we gotta get ready for snow and ice. That's a major issue in this town. And I take that to heart. That's one of my fortes. I like a good snow operation, snow and ice operation. And I take a lot of pride in that, and so do the staff. I like to be prepared. So I want to make sure we have all the materials we need, make sure the equipment's up to snuff, and get ready to go from there. So a brief overview of the department. There's 8 divisions in the DPW at Marshfield. We have the administration, engineering, equipment maintenance, cemetery, trees and greens, highway. We have wastewater, water, and transfer station, which are all enterprise accounts. They fall under Chapter 44, Section 53, half and a half, governed by Mass General Law. So we have to follow those rules. So I'm well aware of how that operates. And I touched base on the snow and ice. That's very important to me, making sure we have a good plan in place. On top of that, I know Chapter 90, we get $741,120 a year to do our roads. And Jimmy and I have been doing that for a long time. And at one point in time, we were rated at 83%. 86 being the best in the state, we were third. So we took a lot of pride in that, maintaining our roads. With Chapter 90 money though, it mainly goes to the main roads because it's a vicious cycle. It's a 20-year cycle. You may get a mile, a two if the road's in decent shape. It's $225 a mile to mill and pave. So we focus mainly on our main roads with that money. And like I said, we get the section done, we go out to the next section, then we follow our pavement management plan that our consultants put together for us. And like I said, it's a vicious cycle. You start here, go around, and you end up back here in 20 years. You start over again. So it doesn't leave a lot of money for us, our side roads. Something that Tom and I have always worked on having in the past was our road reconstruction money to help us maintain the side roads, the sidewalks, the drainage, whichever we choose to do with that money outside of Chapter 90. So it's very helpful that we have that, and it's something I've always been very passionate about and ask for every year. What else do I got? Talked about Chapter 9, road reconstruction, the divisions, social media. I'm one of the ones that started the Facebook page back in 2014, and I have to give my fiance credit for that because she told me I should do it, and it was very successful. People having information, especially with storms or road work, water main breaks, it lowered the call volume down like 50%. It also made the residents feel like they were part of the team. We built a lot of relationships in the past, and I want to keep doing that in the future. I think it's very important that we maintain that gap, closing the gap with the residents. It was very successful. I want to keep doing that. And in closing, I think this form of government is awesome. The Public Works Board, being the department it is, the size it is, and the moving parts that we have, in the budget, you know, it's a $17.5 million budget. It's the second largest in the town, behind the schools. It's very important to have a separate set of overseers, me and you folks. I think Tom will back me up on this as well. You've been very loyal to us. You've always had our backs. You give us full autonomy on how to run the department day to day, the operation. And I missed that. Being in other towns, having to work with the select board and the town administrator, was a different format. This seems to work a lot better, especially for this department the size it is. So I appreciate that, and going forward, I hope we can do the same, at the same level of respect back and forth we used to. Answer any questions you have.
I think
Thank you.
That's very good, thank you, Mr. Patterson. We're gonna start with the questions. Each board member has 3 questions. They will go, I'll ask the first question. Vice Chair, Mr. Shaughnessy will ask his first question, and the clerk, Diane Jordan, will ask her first question, and we'll just go from there.
Sounds good.
Okay, all right. So, my first question is, what is your experience with enterprise and indirect funds? This is a kind of a 2-part question. What are your thoughts regarding indirect policies? Marshfield's indirect policy is very complex. Most communities assign a simple percentage for the indirect charges. What are your thoughts?
So, enterprise accounts, again, they're a unique source of funding. They're set up to, like I said, to have sustainable financial support for water, sewer, waste, transfer station. And it's very highly regulated by the state, as we all know, Mass General Law. You know, your direct charges are your operating budget, your personnel. Indirects are charged through the general fund to the enterprise account for our accounting, postage, lawyers, and so forth. Where I've worked before with enterprise accounts, usually the cap was, what we had to pay into the general fund was 11% or less. Once you start going over that, it's a little tricky, and I don't think it's fair to the enterprise accounts paying that kind of money. So it's something you were very passionate with in the past, and I'm sure you still are,
Yeah.
obviously. And it's something that I agree with you. It's got to be heavily scrutinized. We got to watch where our pennies go, because pennies add up to dollars. I agree with some of the percentages, but not all of them. I thought that the snow and ice percentage of 4% was a fair percentage, but things have changed since then too. Costs have gone up, so that could be adjusted. But I think anything over 11% being taken out of the enterprise account into the general fund is a little too much.
Okay, thank you. All right.
Could I ask for a pause for a second? Are we allowed, Chairman, to ask follow-ups on questions?
We have to follow the same format with
Yeah,
each.
yeah.
Oh, right,
each
okay.
No, sorry,
Candidate.
Okay.
sorry. Go ahead, Bobby.
Okay, hopefully I'll get the question right. This is a planning and management type of question. Superintendent is responsible for all the infrastructure in Marshfield. What is your vision of the superintendent's role in planning, implementing, and management? Can you provide, what would you do to the various divisions to formalize a plan, implement management processes, and how can you plan for success, and how can you correct failures?
Well, hopefully we don't have any failures. My policy's always been the open door policy. In other words, our staff is always welcome with suggestions. As a matter of fact, probably 90% of the projects that we do, our staff inputted. In other words, it's not my way or the highway. So, depending on what, I'll take wastewater for instance. One of the biggest things that you folks have talked about in the past was expansion. If we were going to expand, I would want to do a complete analysis on the collection system to see where our I&I is, where our leaks, where our cracks are. Now, I don't think it's fair to ask the staff to do that because they have their own day-to-day operations to take care of. I think it's something they need to put into a capital plan to do a video of the whole system to find out where our bad points are, and perhaps, I'm a big fan of trenchless digging. I'm a trenchless pipe work, which is CIPP, cured place in place pipe. It's less invasive. We're not digging up the streets. We're not creating chaos. Dewatering trenches down here is a nightmare because you're right in the water table. So I'm a big fan of going manhole to manhole without digging up the road to fix our problems. And that goes for anything. I mean, drainage, it's a team effort. We need to sit down as a group to figure out how we're going to approach it. If we need to go get capital funding, we put it on the warrant for the town meeting, the money that we need. But to make a long story short, it's a team effort, buy-in. You know, it's not just the superintendent. The superintendent does head the department, but I think we get everybody's input. It makes the process go along a lot smoother.
Okay, Diane, you're up.
Okay. At various times, Marshfield residents have had issues with flooding, snow, ice, worksite complications, road hazards, and other impediments which affected safety, access, and damage to their property during off-work hours, along with a lack of effective and helpful channel of communication in these emergency situations. While you obviously cannot be available instantly 24 hours a day, what's your plan to ensure that Marshfield residents will always be able to easily and quickly reach and receive help from the DPW when they need it?
social media, for one. I create a very good rapport with the residents in the past. If they had issues, one thing I asked, if they had a complaint or they wanted something done, to call the office, so we could form a work order, and then we follow through with the work order, and we sign off on it when it's completed. I want, that process should still stay in place, because that way we track everything. But keeping the public informed, like I said, through Facebook, reverse 911 if it's an emergency. I know a lot of people want to be informed, but they get a phone call at 3 o'clock in the morning, they're not happy about it sometimes. So I'm very diligent about putting it out on social media, about hazards and what's going on, what to expect from a storm, what areas are being flooded, what areas are icy. And I have to say, it's worked in the past. It's worked everywhere I've done it, and I want to continue to operate that way. But as far as day-to-day complaints, they should go to the office first, the formal work order, so we can follow up on it.
My question's more about emergency situations.
How to notify the public?
I can explain
go back,
this
yeah,
better?
explain, yeah.
Okay. My question's more about emergency situations with residents reaching the DPW in emergency situations.
But off hours.
After hours.
Off
After-
out,
after-
yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
Do you want me to repeat it, or?
No,
do you want me
I
to-
understand now. So, if I remember correctly, and it's still in place, we have on-call people. And there's an on-call list, and that person has a phone, and each division has that on-call person for emergency purposes. I know with water, a lot of times they'll call the police department, and the police department will reach out to the on-call person to notify them of an emergency. But if no one's in the office, I think maybe we need to post the numbers of the on-call people, either on the website or on social media, so they have access to those numbers to call in the off-duty emergency situations. I misunderstood you, I thought you meant.
It's fine.
Yeah.
It was a good answer, you know.
Yeah.
You know.
But that's how
anyway.
we've done in the past. I think, I see where you're going with this. I think it's gonna be enhanced a little bit, so people have the numbers to call.
Mhm.
And I think the easiest way, besides blowing up on social media, we could use that tool as well, but it should be on the website, who to call at each, and we can change that, the rotation changes with the people, but the numbers are still the same.
Mhm. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Let me get back to my questions. Okay, Mr. Patterson. Number 2, please provide us with an interpretation of the DPW director duties as they relate to a snow event. Specifically, what is your thought process before, during, and after a storm?
And those are the 3 phases I have: planning, operations, and post-snow operations. As most of the people know, they're sitting in this room, I'm a big weather nut. So come winter or hurricane season, I follow the weather. I'm like a part-time meteorologist. So I know what's going on, and I follow the maps, and I follow the models and so forth. So now, pick on Jimmy. If Jimmy and I know a storm's coming, he's just as picky as I am. We go into the planning stage. We plan what materials we're going to use, what we need. We'll be sure we have it on site. We bring our equipment in to have them checked out to make sure everything's operating properly. It's standard protocol. One of the biggest things I want to put in place is I want our staff to respond. And I know it's not in the contract per se, but the superintendent has the right to call it an emergency, and people will have to come to work, plain and simple. You have a good excuse why you don't. I will see that happens. So we're in the planning stage, and we want to make sure our staff is all going to show up, everybody's assigned to a vehicle, a route, and so forth. The storm comes. One of the biggest things I like to do is, if we know we're going to get a substantial amount of snow or ice, I bring the crew in early before they have to drive through the nasty weather. You know, there's no delays at all. So everybody's in, our trucks are already preloaded the night before with salt. So we go out and we do a round of pre-treat. We hit all our streets once. That creates a nice little sheen, a liquid sheen on the asphalt between the pavement and the ice. So when we go to plow, it pushes right off, and you have a black road. So we go out and pre-treat. We know that the snow's gonna come. We call in all our drivers. And I'm not afraid to pull the trigger and have our contractors come in at the same time, because it makes the operation a lot smoother with the extra help we have. We can stay ahead of the storm. I don't like fighting a storm from behind. We get behind it on everything. Roads are getting backed up, your parking lot's got a foot of snow on the ground. I don't want to play that way. I want to be proactive, get the resources in there, get the job done. Once the job is done, then we go to post-operations, post-storm operations, which is cleaning up our intersections, making sure our parking lots are all tidied up, everything's sanded and salted before we go home. And depending on how bad the storm is, we either start our sidewalks that night or start the next morning. But it's a continuous operation as well. And then post-operations, we bring our trucks in, they have them evaluated again, make sure they're ready for the next storm, and we reorder our materials. My role, and not everybody's like me, but I'm a nut. I like to be here for the storm. I like to participate. Numerous times, and I think Jimmy and Tom, well, Tom's done it too. We end up driving trucks, because we're short-staffed. I mean, I have a CDL, and I've driven trucks all my life, so I'm not afraid to do it. And I'll continue to do it. But I'm here for the duration of the storm, and I take over a lot of the social media stuff during the storm. Hope that answers your question.
It sure does, thank you. Okay, Mr. Shaughnessy?
Okay. This question relates to external resources, grants, loans, that kind of thing. As superintendent, how do you see your role of seeking external resources to help improve Marshfield's infrastructure? Give some examples of a program or projects that you have directly been involved in to achieve the external resources to achieve a program or a project. Describe details of the project or program and dollars received. Also describe ones that you were successful and ones that you weren't so successful. You don't always get your money.
In my handout, I listed in there that when I worked for the federal government, Homeland Security, I was what they call a COTAR, contracting officials representative technician. And I did a lot of the grant writing, and I also did the procurement. It's like the CPDO for the state. You're a certified procurement officer. So I'm very used to writing grants, and the last one we did was in Warren. We went after the ARPA funds, which is funds from the federal government that we use to rehab our sewer. And for instance, we used it to, I had to rebuild 2 massive manholes where the pumps are, which fed the waste into the force main and into our pump station to be sent out and processed. The 2 of them had failed, so we were able to secure over $1 million. I don't know exactly the amount of money, but it was like $1.1 million in ARPA fund money grant, because we wrote it in such a way that it was going to be an issue with the groundwater, because it was I-9, the pumps had failed, they would back up, and you had raw sewage going over the top, the covers into the parking lots and so forth. So we wrote it so it seemed like it was an emergency, which it was, and we were very successful in getting the grant money for that project. And we had a timeline to get it done, get it fixed, and it was June of this past year. We did get the projects done and secured the funding for it. I mean, I've gone out for road money for different projects, intersections, and you're competing with 351 other communities in the Commonwealth for the same money. So I've always noticed that you gotta be very specific with your grant writing on the why, the need. You gotta overemphasize that. And one of the biggest things is, you gotta get the grant in early. You can't delay, because you delay, you're not gonna secure that funding. And what I used to do was, in the organization I was working for, I would look in the past to see what grants were written and for what, and kind of use that as a template. And I'm not afraid to sit down and ask people what they thought about the grant, and how I wrote it, and we make adjustments before you submit it. So I do have quite a bit of knowledge in grant writing.
That's good.
I actually enjoy it. I like to write, as you can see.
Yeah, well, we need help down Brant Rock.
I know the funding source to get that from.
Yeah,
It's my handout.
good.
Okay, where are we at, Diane? You-
Yep. Describe the relevant chain of command and approval procedures for all work and projects done by the DPW, and how you would navigate a scenario wherein any Marshfield official or department makes a request through you for the DPW to perform work, alter an existing project, or provide any DPW services which have not been vetted and approved via an affirmative vote by the Board of Public Works. I can repeat that if you want.
Please do.
All right, it's
You don't-
it's a two-part question.
Yeah,
So I'll just start with the first part.
Yeah.
Describe the relevant chain of command and approval procedures for work and projects done by the DPW.
so it starts with me, the superintendent, and we do have a chain of command that goes to the two deputy superintendents. One's administration and finance, so it depends on what the project is, whether he gets involved or not, but we do have to talk to him about where the money is and how much we have in the budget. It then goes to Jimmy, he's the director of operations, and we filter down through the divisions. Each division has a foreman, an assistant foreman, sometimes two, depending on what division it is. I mean, most divisions in that department have, each division has like 15 people in it. So there's some good middle management there. But it starts basically with me to make sure we have the right funding and we are able to do the project, and we filter down from there. As far as projects outside the day-to-day operation, and I say day-to-day, I mean maintenance, what we usually do during the day, catch basins, potholes, berms, the water department checking their stations, replacing a hydrant. I call that day-to-day operations. Anything out of that scope, we have in the agenda, the superintendent's report. I would make the board privy to what was going on, what we're doing, and what we're thinking about doing before we did anything.
And then the second part of the question is, how would you navigate a scenario wherein any Marshfield official or department makes a request through you for the DPW to perform work, it should be project maybe, alter an existing project, or provide DPW services which have not been vetted and approved via an affirmative vote by the Board of Public Works?
Again, if you talk about other agencies, police, fire,
Any Marshfield official or department.
so they would come to us, and if it's a day-to-day operation type of thing, a pothole or a catch basin, we would take care of it. Anything outside of that scope, we would come to the Board of Public Works first to seek permission and explain to you what they want and how they want to do it, and whether we can and can't do it. So and I said this before, that this is a very unique form of government, and it's a two-way street. We have to provide information to you, as well as you support us and give us policy to follow. But I'm very transparent, and if I'm going to do something, I want you folks to know about it.
Okay. Ah. Let me go back here. Okay, the last question I have, what type of work order system do you currently use?
I don't quote me on the name, but we get a call at dispatch, and the dispatch will type up the work order. the work order goes into a tray. And each division, each foreman will go in and grab their work orders. And they go out, they'll talk to the, either Jimmy or myself about what they're gonna do, how they're gonna do it, get the project done. We go out and look at it, make sure the project's done correctly, and we sign off on the work order. Again, I don't know the name of the system itself. I think it works. There may be have to be a little more oversight on it. I think we need to focus more on the work orders, to getting them done and off the table and signed off. Because you folks live in town and you see everybody, they're gonna come to you, and then you're gonna come to us. So if we get it off the calendar quick enough, you guys don't have to deal with it, and it's already done. I'm a firm believer that the less headaches you have to deal with, that we should be dealing with, the better off everybody's gonna be.
Okay, that's fair. Thank you. Bobby, you're up.
All right, this question deals with personnel and unions. Superintendent of Public Works wears many hats. As the operations chief, describe your labor relations experience, and please describe past experience with management of personnel and union affairs. Describe a situation where you define success and a situation where you would define failure. And what you would, excuse me, in each, what do you believe was the lessons learned and how it changed your approach as a manager?
Okay.
So as we move forward, we all have successes and we change as a manager. We also have failures and we learn from them. So just trying to looking for, dealing with unions and personnel all the time, you just give us some kind of scenarios.
So my philosophy is, me coming into the door, we start with a clean slate. I'm not looking for trouble, but I will interact if I have to. I don't forget where I came from, so I understand what the laborers do, what they have to deal with. I understand the cold weather, the hot weather. I know what each individual does and how they do it. So I have a pretty good feel for that, and I'm also very compassionate that way. I've never had a grievance filed against me, my over 20 years. And if anybody had a problem, we solved it at the desk. But I have had to terminate people because there was no grievance filed, but they were out of line. My philosophy is, if somebody has an accident, there's malice, and there's just complete disrespect and disregard. Those are, to me, you get terminated for those things. We're in the business where accidents are going to happen, and I understand that. And I'm not one to go yell and scream and write people up for that. But if you act in malice, you will be shown the door. It doesn't make me happy to terminate somebody, but it has to be done sometimes. I think Tom and I we're very fortunate. We haven't had that many issues. We have always had a good staff here. And most of my experiences with terminating people are outside of this place, in other departments. But, there's a standard protocol. If somebody acts up and misbehaves, you get the verbal warning. Do it again, you get a written warning. Next time, 1 day suspension, then a 3-day suspension, then you go to 5 days in termination. And after that, it's like the person's not going to change. And you got to, for the better good of the whole department, you have to get rid of the bad apple, unfortunately. What I've learned over the years is that sometimes I'm too easygoing. I want to give people the benefit of the doubt. I know how hard it is to make a living out there. These guys and girls don't get paid a lot of money, so I know that. I try to make the best for them as well as myself. But I'm not gonna, if somebody's gonna directly disobey me or disrespect me, then we're gonna have problems. But luckily, I haven't had that many issues like that. I usually solve my problems at the desk, and we go from there. But I don't know if terminating makes you, somebody makes you a better manager or a worse manager. I stick with what's best, or what I think is best for me, and which I said before, the open door policy. I want people to come to me, you have a problem at home, I'm gonna help you get through it. There's ways to work around things, and it's a two-way street. You show me respect, I'm gonna show you respect, and do whatever I can to help you.
Good, thank you.
Okay, it's my understanding through board discussion and talks with the current superintendent that the DPW is underfunded, understaffed, lacking in Class A CDL licensed drivers and other positions within the department. What's your opinion of the current state of the DPW funding and teams? What are your plans, if any, to increase DPW funding, attract and retain new team members, and how will you achieve those goals?
Well, it's a common problem in every town, trying to retain people for the wages that, and this is, Marshfield's not alone. This is something that's Commonwealth-wide, the state. The wages for these types of jobs aren't very attractive. What attracts people is the camaraderie. Once you get into a group like this department has one of the best groups as far as camaraderie goes. They all work together and work very well. Yes, the federal government passed a law where you have to have all this training to get a CDL before you can go and take the test. And it's not easy for people to come up with $5 grand to go take the test, nor do they want to for these kind of wages. So there are programs out there, and we just done the one down in Marshfield County where we take some of our staff and train them to be CDL instructors. And they teach the folks in the department that want to move up and get their license. It doesn't cost anything to the individuals. I think it's a great start, and I know the people who to contact to make it work here as well. I think you may have already started that, Tom, which is a great thing. That helps, and when we can provide the training for them, so it's no cost out of their pocket, we may attract some people. The flip side of that is, once we train somebody and spend that kind of money and effort into training them, we need to have some kind of a contract in place where they stay here. They don't go somewhere else and take their expertise that we taught them to another place because it pays them $2 an hour more. Funding is going to be an issue no matter what. I always like to help the guys along, put some money in their wallets, do other things besides pay bills. Give them an overtime shift on the Saturday. There's a lot of work that has to be done. And a lot of the guys want to work. And so we're getting things off the docket and helping them get by in their lives. In the past, we have gone and asked for more funding, but it's a big department. So you're spreading out the little money that you get amongst 85 people to make it fair across the board. So I like to give them extra work on a Saturday, if that makes any sense. It helps them out financially. It's one way to retain the people that we get, because getting them in the door is very, very difficult. I've seen ads for truck drivers for 6 months. And a lot of people will say they'll do an application and send it in to you, but it's only because they're collecting unemployment benefits, and they got to show that they applied for a job. Half of them don't even show up for the interview. I've had that problem as well. So getting new help is an issue that we have to work on in the future, for sure. But for now, I like to retain the people that we have, and keep them here. If that makes sense, answer your question.
You good?
I'm good.
All right. That concludes the questions, Mr. Patterson. Now it's your closing statement to the commissioners.
Again, I really am grateful for the opportunity to sit here before the three of you and share my thoughts and how to move the department into the future. I had probably the best 8 years of my career working here in Marshfield. I had a lot of fun. I enjoyed it. I felt as though I was part of a team. We got a lot done. Tom and I both got a lot done, as well as the board, because the board supported us 100% every time we wanted to go do something, which is huge. I felt as though, with the support of the board, that I had flexibility to manage the department in the right way. And I don't see anything changing the current board either. You know, I'll give you 150%. And again, thank you very much for having me.
Well, thank you for taking the time to
Oh, my pleasure.
make a presentation. So that would conclude the
Want to move me out?
interviews of both candidates, and the board will now entertain, we go to the next area. We're gonna go to the action item.
Sean, it's great to see you.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming in.
Thank you very much. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet
Finally.
you.
Bob, good to see you. Tom, John, good to see you too.
Thank you. So, we're on action item, is discussion and vote on DPW superintendent
So do
position.
we do this in, we don't do this in executive session?
No,
No, it has to be in open
Okay.
session.
no, this, because
Okay.
when I attended Tom's, it was at the old selectmen's meeting. So, discussion and vote. Right now, I'm gonna make a motion. I'm gonna make a motion to nominate Sean Patterson as our next superintendent. And then we'll have discussion. Do I have a second?
You have a second,
Do I have a second?
so we now have a discussion.
So we're gonna,
Now, well, now we go to discussion.
Yeah, motion and been second for the purpose of discussion.
oh, for discussion, okay, all right, yeah.
So, I thought that Mr. Russell did have answers, but they weren't, for instance, on the emergency service is just to call 911. And I thought Mr. Patterson had much more information on that. And it's not really a 911 call, it's a 6655 call to the non-emergency. There were other, I also asked on the indirects, the questions of that, and I'll be honest, I don't think that Mr. Russell had a handle on exactly how the indirects are about. They're not, his answer didn't direct anything about it. The overhead, indirects are nothing but overhead charges. So that was some of the answers to some of the questions. Although he has experience as a facilities manager and a facilitator, I honestly don't think he has, it's a really high learning curve for Mr. Russell at that level as a superintendent of the DPW. That's how I felt. So now I guess with discussion, we go to Mr. Shaughnessy, the vice chair.
Fred Russell, good guy. Liked him. I agree with John that the learning curve is steep. I think Sean doesn't have that learning curve. I think for the town, the smooth transition and the complexity of all the different divisions, Sean's the better candidate too.
Okay, Ms. Jordan?
Yeah, so I agree with you, John, that Mr. Russell didn't seem to have a really complete understanding of the enterprise accounts and the indirect. He just didn't, I don't think he answered the question really, because I think he didn't really understand how it works. And I liked Sean's answer to that, particularly that he's not in favor of just keeping with the status quo. He's gonna question it and look into it, and thinks that there can be improvement there. And then, I, of course, love Sean's social media stuff, as you know.
Yes.
I'm already like figuring out how I can work with him on that. But with the, finally I have a Facebook friend.
Yeah,
The,
that understands it.
Right, exactly. Yeah, with my question about, you know, in an emergency situation and stuff like that, I thought his ideas around that were great, because they were definitely on the fly, you know, his answer to that. He was kind of figuring it out. And it was something he, you know, hadn't really considered coming into the interview, I think, that part of it. And then Mr. Russell, yeah, just the 911, it wasn't a sufficient answer for me. So, and then I don't think Mr. Russell understood exactly how, with the chain of command thing, the board and the DPW really actually work together. It didn't seem like he had a good understanding of that. So, and then, I really love Mr. Russell's whole idea, that whole concept of the thing that people can click on to submit, you know, work order requests, and I think that's a great idea. I'd love to see the department kind of steal that idea and go with it. But, so that part of his presentation I thought was good. And it definitely, I feel like we should, you know, look into that, doing that.
If I may, I can add a little to that.
Yeah.
The new Munis system has a work order system that we paid an additional $300,000 for. So when that is implemented, we will have a work order system. And I'm not sure of all the intricacies of it, but this may be part of it.
Okay,
Or it could be linked to it, I should say, not be part of it.
okay.
And if Fred's moving forward, it's gonna be on the town. So I think we may have access to
Oh,
it at some
okay.
point too.
Good.
I'm not sure that I can look into that.
Yeah, I think overall Sean has a really good understanding of the whole department and the way that it all works together, and it just feels like Mr. Russell might not.
So,
I don't think
yeah.
Mr. Russell really has that level.
Well, I think
Definitely
Mr.
doesn't have that
Russell-
level of understanding.
I think after a year of being on the job, he could be a very good superintendent.
I think
I just,
yeah.
I think, you know, he has the base, he has the education, he has the NASPORT experience. He has a lot of good, you know, a lot of good ideas that he would attain from a on-the-job experience. The issue is, Sean already has that. This smooth transition, he already understands where he's already had the job. I think that Sean has the backing of me, because I've known him for so many years. He's done a great job on almost everything he's done. He put his heart and soul into this job when he was here, and I didn't want to see him go. I'm glad to see him apply. Hopefully he'll be back. So that's where I'm coming from. And so he would, if we go to a vote, I'm going to vote for Sean.
Well, I'm gonna make a motion that we vote Sean Patterson as the new superintendent. Do I have a second?
You have second?
All in favor?
Aye. Well, we need to individually vote.
I'm sorry,
We should do a vote, individual.
Roll
call vote.
Roll call.
do a roll call.
Yeah.
All right, Chairman Cusick, in favor of Sean Patterson for as DPW superintendent.
Aye.
Vice Chairman Shaughnessy,
Aye.
Clerk Jordan,
Aye.
unanimous 3-0.
3-0, unanimous. Sean Patterson has a lot of passion. Also, Mr. Russell had passion, but it didn't seem to reach the level of Sean Patterson's passion for this particular superintendent's position. So that concludes the meeting. I'm gonna make the next meeting is October 16th, although that could be changed.
Yes, we'll know better in the morning, I
So-
think, on that.
So it's not really gonna be the 16th, but we'll keep everybody informed. I make a motion that we adjourn.
I have a
Right.
question about that. So if they change town meeting, our meeting still gets changed, or we,
Yeah,
Yeah.
why wouldn't we, or we
because
don't
we meet
have
at
anything
town
to?
meeting.
We meet at town meeting.
Oh, we don't have anything else?
No.
At that, okay, I
No,
don't know.
usually we just meet there to housekeeping, whatever we need to do.
Okay, I didn't know if we had anything else on
Yeah,
that.
it
So
was-
we don't have him come back in and tell him that,
No, we just,
No, not usually, we
No,
tell
okay.
them we notify
oh,
them.
because the select board did that with the.
Yeah,
um,
they take it, they
They-
make their vote, and then they leave, and then they notify them.
Yeah, they
Okay.
had the conservation, they had Mike come in and told them. and
Oh,
he
right,
got the
right,
job.
oh, okay.
I don't know if we did it
I
that
have a
way.
question while we're still in session.
That was fun.
Who wants to take care of the contract? Do you want to do that, Mr. Shaughnessy?
Sure.
He's in, I would have asked you, but
I definitely don't want to write a
okay.
contract.
I don't want to do it either. So I nominate Robert Shaughnessy, the vice chair, to interact with Mr. Patterson over his 3-year, that's a 3-year position.
3-year position.
3 years
Position.
with 1-year extensions.
Yes, for 1-year extension. So you, Mr. Shaughnessy, you'll take care
I'll
of
be
it.
more than happy to do.
I think you need to add to that contract that he has to have his band play at one of the,
Well, he has to be
one
at
of
the
the
gym.
events.
Yeah, it has
Have
to
an
be
event
down
with
at
the
Grant
band
Rock.
play. In the opening, for the
The ribbon
opening of the,
Okay,
put that in the
Okay.
contract.
that's it. Thank you.
So I make
The
a
ribbon
motion
cutting.
that we adjourn. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Can
Thank
you?
you very